Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles, and today we had a bit of a special for you. 3 brand new premium tanks available from today, at least if you're playing on the EU server, in the World of Tanks premium gift shop. And those tanks are the long-awaited, if you're Polish, T-3485 Rudy, the Soviet IS-2 heavy tank, and the British Cromwell B medium tank. 3 vehicles known collectively as the Berlin Trio. There was originally planned to be a 4th. I know that sounds crazy, calling them the Berlin Trio and having 4 of them, but there was originally planned to be a 4th vehicle, the Soviet ISU-122S tank destroyer. That's not being included in this promotion. It's being held back. Wargaming figured that people would just complain if they introduced 3 new Soviet vehicles. The ISU-122S is going to be coming at a future date as part of its own promotion. Now, you know what my tank reviews are like. It's usual at this point for me to go into a long and elaborate comparison of the stats of these machines, but I'm not going to do that today because they are pretty much, to all intents and purposes, almost exactly the same as the existing non-premium tanks upon which they're based. If you were to look at the T-3485 Rudy, for example, and compare them to the regular T-3485, there are only 2 differences. Rudy has 5 meters extra view range for 365 meters view range, and he has 100 less horsepower. The regular T-3485 has a 600 horsepower engine. Rudy only has a 500 horsepower engine. So that means that Rudy here has less power to weight ratio than the non-premium T-3485, and yet, as you can quite clearly see from the video here, he doesn't really seem to suffer too much by comparison. In fact, after playing this tank, I was actually quite surprised to see that it didn't have the same horsepower as the regular T-3485. I certainly never noticed it while playing, and the lack of extra horsepower certainly never got me into any trouble. So I suppose the big question is, should you spend your hard-earned money on the T-3485 Rudy? And of course, if you're Polish, you're probably sitting there shouting at the screen, "Shut up and take my money," because Rudy is of course the first Polish tank to make it into World of Tanks. As for the rest of us, it's all a question of whether or not you drive Soviet medium tanks. It's very, very difficult for me to actually sit here and say, yes, this tank is worth the money. For the simple reason that at the time of recording this video, I do not know what the price of these tanks, any of these 3 tanks, are going to be. But the T-3485 Rudy is a good Tier 6 medium tank. It's only slightly worse than the existing T-3485, and that is a good Tier 6 medium tank. But the one thing that you should bear in mind is that prior to the introduction of this tank, there is only 1 premium Soviet medium tank in World of Tanks, and that's the Tier 5 Matilda IV. I know it seems hard to believe given how many Soviet premium heavies and tank destroyers are available in World of Tanks, but this is only the 2nd Soviet premium medium tank available in the game. So if you are a Soviet medium tank driver and you're looking for a good premium tank with which to train your existing medium tank crews, well, Rudy's Tier 6 earns more credits than the Matilda IV at Tier 5, and it's arguably a better tank, so it's a bit of a no-brainer really. And of course, if you're Polish, you've probably already bought it, so I'm preaching to the choir here. But it is a good tank. I've certainly enjoyed playing it, and I am definitely going to be getting one. The second tank in the Berlin Trio is the one that I am getting least excited about, and that's the brand new Soviet Tier 7 Premium IS-2. It's not a bad tank by any stretch of the imagination. It is basically a cut and paste of the existing Soviet Tier 7 IS heavy tank with the 122mm gun, but that's kind of the problem. We're tripping over premium Soviet heavy tanks, and to all intents and purposes it is exactly the existing IS, just with a new paint scheme and a couple of very, very minor differences in the stats. It has 50 more hit points than the regular non-premium Tier 7 IS heavy tank. The frontal armour is 20mm thinner, it's 100 rather than 120 at the front, but the armour is better sloped than on the non-premium IS. It actually turns a little bit faster, but it has 100 horsepower less on the engine, and it has a disastrously bad 440 meter signal range radio, but other than that it's pretty much exactly the same as the existing IS at Tier 7. They both have the same gun, they have the same rate of fire, 4.88 rounds per minute. Both have the same awful aiming time on that big 122mm gun, 175mm of penetration with standard armor piercing ammunition, and they both have a very, very good 390 alpha damage. The only real problem with the IS-2 is that, well, it doesn't really stand out from the increasingly numerous crowd of premium Soviet heavy tanks. It's as good as the IS, and that's not a bad thing, because the IS is a good, solid, reliable, all-round Tier 7 heavy tank, and that's pretty much exactly what you're getting here with the IS-2. The only real difference is the snappy new paint scheme, which I must admit I do actually quite like. So I suppose the question is it worth buying? And once again, it's difficult to say because I don't know at the time of recording this video how much it costs, but by the time this video goes up it'll be there in the gift shop. You'll be able to make that decision for yourself. If you already have one of the Tier 8 premium Soviet heavy tanks, then there's probably not an awful lot of point in going out and buying the IS-2. However, if you don't have one of the Tier 8 premium Soviet heavy tanks, and you are going down the Soviet heavy tank line in World of Tanks, then this is definitely going to be a decent, much more cost-effective alternative. You can use it to train your Soviet heavy tank crews, you can use it to earn money. It's not going to earn as much money as a Tier 8 premium heavy, but it's not going to earn that much less either because it's Tier 7. I guess the short review would be, if you can afford to get yourself an IS-6, then get yourself an IS-6, but be quick about it because it has premium matchmaking, and Wargaming are in the process of removing the premium matchmaking tanks from sale in the gift shop. If you can't afford to get an IS-6, then the IS-2 is a decent, solid, all-round, much more cost-effective alternative. All of which brings us on to the third and final member of the Berlin trio, and it is easily my favourite, and not just because it's British, but because it is by far the best. It's the Cromwell B, British Tier 6 Premium Medium Tank. It took as much as one game in the Cromwell B for me to fall in love with it. This tank is awesome, it really is. I mean, for a start, it's based on the Cromwell, obviously, hence the name, and the Cromwell's fantastic. There are differences, of course, between the non-premium Cromwell at Tier 6 and the premium Cromwell B, as you can see here on Rutenberg. But unlike the other two tanks in the Berlin trio, they're all pretty much advantages rather than disadvantages. They both have 750 hit points. They both have a 64 km/h top speed. They both have exactly the same horsepower in the engine. It doesn't get a weaker engine than the tank upon which it's based. It does have 1mm less frontal armour, but it has 10mm more side armour. The view range is the same. The Cromwell B actually has 20 meters more radio signal range. They both have the same gun. They both have the same turret traverse. And whereas the Cromwell has a well-deserved reputation for speed and manoeuvrability with its 36 degrees per second hull traverse, the Cromwell B is even better with 50 degrees per second hull traverse. I know, it's crazy. One of the fastest and most manoeuvrable medium tanks in the game just got more manoeuvrable. There is absolutely nothing to dislike about the Cromwell B. It is a fantastic Tier 6 premium medium British tank. In fact, like the T-3485 Rudy, you don't really have a lot of choice when it comes to premium medium British tanks. It's the Cromwell B or the Matilda Black Prince, and that's a complete no-brainer. The Matilda Black Prince, it may have character, but it's an awful medium tank. The Cromwell, well, even if they just made this tank as good as the regular non-premium Tier 6 Cromwell, it would be worth getting for training British medium tank crews, but they've actually made it better. Shut up and take my money. It's never going to earn the same amount of credits, for example, as a Tier 8 premium because it's only a Tier 6 premium, but it's never going to lose money either. This is a fantastic Tier 6 medium tank. I can't believe... In fact, the only thing I don't like about the Cromwell B is the paint scheme. Get that American star off this British tank. Get it off this instant. I mean, I know why they put it there. Well, I know now. The first time I clapped eyes on this tank, I wasn't sure whether it was an American or a British tank. Oh, hold on, I'm just going to humiliate this SU-100. Oh, I've blown your tracks off. Now where are you going to go? I love this machine. But yes, the white US star, if you like, on the back of the tank was there to aid aerial recognition, so lessen the chances that you get taken out by your own dive bombers and ground attack aircraft. But yeah, I don't know. But that's a minor thing to dislike. I don't really like the paint scheme. Shut up, Jingles. The tank's fantastic. The paint scheme doesn't matter. So yeah, this definitely. I mean, if you haven't guessed by now, yes, I definitely recommend the Cromwell B. If you can only afford to buy one of the Berlin Trio, and you just want a fun tank, get the Cromwell B, because it is utterly, utterly amazing. If you drive British medium tanks and you're looking for a premium tank to train your British medium tank crews, then don't waste your time looking at the Matilda Black Prince when the Cromwell B is available. Get this tank. It is great. And despite the fact that it's not a tier 8 premium, and I keep saying it's not going to earn as much money as a tier 8 premium, and it isn't. It earns a pretty penny as well. I mean, I made a 41,000 credit profit out of this, my first game in the Cromwell B. I would have made a 26,000 credit profit even without the benefit of a premium account. Oh, Wargaming, shut up and take my money. I definitely know which one I'm going to be buying when these things get released into the gift shop. So that's the Berlin Trio, 3 new tanks available from World of Tanks in the gift shop by the time you see this video. The T-3485 Rudy, and everybody in Poland has of course already bought one because it's Polish, the IS-2, and the Cromwell B, British Tier 6 medium tank. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope it's going to help you decide which, if any, of these tanks to spend your hard-earned money on. As always folks, take care, and I'll catch you next time.